Hey, what's up everyone and welcome back. It's been a while since my last Arknights focused video, but I wanted to take some time today to discuss what makes Arknights such a good game. I asked members of my community, and if you're not a part of it, hey, consider joining the Discord server. It will be linked down below and probably shown on screen. But I wanted to see why Arknights is such a beloved gacha game and why it's such a good gacha game in the eyes of so many individuals. What makes it special, what makes it stand out in comparison to other games, especially when so many gacha games are released on a consistent basis. Not only that, but why has it received so much support in the long term, especially considering this is an older gacha game prior to Genshin Impact, prior to Blue Archive, which a lot of people know is the main game I cover on this channel. And why is it such an easy game not only to get into, regardless of when you played, but also even when you're an older player, why it's so easy to continue to stick with it. Keeping all of this in mind, remember it's 5 AM, so this may be a bit more unjumbled than my regular videos. But first off, let's start with gameplay. Arknights is unique in the sense that it's a tower defense game. There aren't many tower defense gacha games out there. You usually have top-down games where you could have chibi sprites running around, such as something like Blue Archive. You could have games that give you entirely different 3D models like Genshin Impact, Honkai, Punishing Grey Raven. These are more instance world battles, but they do provide you with adequate counter systems, and they are, and to some degree, a bit more intriguing in regards to character design, just because you're constantly seeing that model on screen. So the design has to be at very least interesting for you to keep your attention or for you to want to summon. But there are so many games that can either copy a chibi art style or a top-down art style or even just the three-dimensional model art style that Arknights being a tower defense game with the way that it is with the little sprites makes it very interesting. It makes it very easy to identify on screen or whenever you see it. And that's kind of been a continuous thing. Arknights has a very identifiable look. It has a very, very unique style. And you can kind of see this from the beginning stages of the game to the end. From when the game was first released to now, the art style and theme hasn't changed. The game doesn't look entirely different. Instead, you have new outfits added in, which are not just for the brand new top rarity units, but also for lower rarity units. You have some that are given to you for free. You have some that are really easily obtainable. I think that from a general standpoint, and even in my own personal opinion, Arknights not only has a nice look and aesthetic to it, but the gameplay itself further enhances it. Tower defense is a unique style of game. Some people enjoy it, some people hate it. I personally am a fan of it. In my opinion, it's very satisfying to put things into position with the expectation or with the knowledge of where your opponents are going to go into and see everything just play out exactly as planned. And that's a satisfaction that Arknights gives me that no other gacha game can, because I'm usually fighting in real-time combat with other gacha games and other games in general, or even if it's turn-based. Arknights is real-time combat, but it's tower defense. It gives me the ability and the idea and concept of strategizing based on what I know my enemies are, based on where they're going to, or based on specific points they have to pass. Meaning that instead of just relying on my own capabilities, I have to rely on a lot of my own pre-existing knowledge of the enemies I'm facing off against. Okay, are they ranged? Okay, are they resistant? Do they have high defenses? Who are the characters that I have actively available that I can deploy down? And what are the downsides I'm facing off if I put everybody here or spread them out? Arknights has a rewarding style of gameplay. Sure, you can clear most stages, but if you clear it out with 3 stars, if you don't have any casualties, essentially, if you do it pretty successfully, you can get through the game. And the game rewards you for that with giving you extra currency, which can be exchanged for skins or can be exchanged for the currency utilized to roll. Arknights doesn't necessarily have to be a free-to-play friendly game. It is, don't get me wrong, it is. But Arknights rewards you no matter what for smart play. And that's something I think a lot of people kind of forget with other gacha games. You aren't really rewarded for being knowledgeable on the characters or knowledgeable on the opponents you're facing off against, or knowledgeable about positioning or strategy, because a lot of times you can either unga bunga through it, you can roll for a very specific character that can kind of crush the content of the game. And don't get me wrong, Arknights has that too, but it's to less of a egregious extent. And I think that's what sets it apart. Not just that, but you also have the music. Let's be honest here. Everyone, to some degree, has heard about Arknights music. It's an amazing soundtrack. I'm 95% sure, depending on when you're watching this, or if you're watching this, or how I edit this, I probably have Arknights in the background. It's an amazing soundtrack, worthy of praise. So if you're talking about the fact that you have events that are really nice and events that bring out occasionally new outfits for characters, if you have a satisfying gameplay and a smooth, consistent art style and theme and aesthetic and overall just great presentation, then of course people are going to gravitate back towards this game, because even if you don't play it actively, you can come back and appreciate the designs. You can come back and appreciate the new character. And even if we're talking about new characters, the gacha system, to be honest, isn't that bad. Arknights rewards you at the very least, with something decent in the first 10 pulls of a banner. It's high rarity. Don't get me wrong, it doesn't have to be the banner unit or the brand new unit, but it could be. And I think that's something that really goes underrated in a lot of games. Yeah, you can roll and you can roll and you can say there's a chance, but Arknights outright tells you, hey, in your first 10 rolls, you're guaranteed something decent. And that incentivizes you to, even if you're not interested in the current character, just drop 10 pulls, see what you get, and go. And it's not too uncommon to see multiple high rarity units within one 10 pull, and that's something I think is really nice because it does make the gacha system feel rewarding on top of the gameplay. Arknights doesn't necessarily force you into a very hardcore style of gameplay. Yeah, sure, you can be casual, but you can also do other things to build up your units. You don't really have to play that game to build up your units. Let me make that clear. Once you unlock the base in Arknights, you're set. You can just utilize that to get the upgrade materials for your units. Don't get me wrong, it's much slower, but you can. And that's the point I want to make here. You don't have to be a hardcore player. You don't have to push into the hardest stages or the highest difficulties in order to get the best gear. You are allowed to take a much more casual approach, and sure, you won't get or reach the same level as other people if they've been playing from the beginning or if, they're constantly grinding, but you can. And even though it may take you slightly longer, you can do that casually. You can do that without playing the game. You can do that without stressing yourself out. And this culminates into a very fluid and very unique experience in that once you start the game, you're rewarded with decent characters. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying the best character in the game. I am saying, though, they're pretty good. And some of them, Silver Ash, for instance, if you invest highly into him to the end game, he can carry you in some stages and some forms of content. Thorns as well is an amazing unit. You have characters that the game essentially says, hey, here's a banner for you. You're a beginner, here's 20 pulls. Get something decent. And here's a bunch of rewards on top of that in case you didn't get a character or a unit that you think is good enough, because they do give out rewards now, especially if you're a new player, and that it's like, hey, here, pick an operator. And then, hey, here, pick another operator. And there are plenty of resources on YouTube that can help you decide who you want to pick. And that's what I think makes Arknights great. Overall, you can have a fine gacha game with a fine experience, with a fine combat system where everything clicks and everything fits together. But I do think a lot of games fall apart in the aspect of where is the community itself? Where are they on YouTube? Where are they on Reddit? Where are they on Discord? The Arknights community, in my opinion, is very supportive, very active, and for the most part, at least from what I've seen, doesn't try to start drama. And it leads to a much more chill and friendly experience than you would otherwise have in other games. So I think if you're looking for a fun gacha game, Arknights is definitely it. I think if you're looking for a game that you can easily pick up and put down and come back to a couple of weeks or months later and it still be a fun experience, Arknights is it. I'm not an active player. I don't play this game every single day, but I don't play Blue Archive every single day. But neither of those games make me feel like I have to. I don't feel like I'm missing out on content or combat or exclusive rewards by not playing either one of those games. Instead, I feel a very distinct urge when I want to play the game and when I don't. When I'm done, I just drop it and I don't feel the need to come back until I'm ready to. And despite how that sounds, it, in my opinion, is the best way to go about a gacha game. If a gacha game makes you feel like you have the authority and the freedom to pick it up and put it back down whenever you want, and you can legitimately do that without losing too much, I think that's a perfect experience. Arknights has so many things going for it, from design to characters to abilities to animation to art style to music and to gameplay, and all of that is summed up in the community, which really appreciates the love and dedication and effort the developers put into it. So I think if you have not played Arknights, go play it, but I'm pretty sure you have because you sat through the entirety of this video, and if you did, hey, consider subscribing. Either way, that's going to do it for my thoughts and opinions, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.